Hello, how you doing? My name is Antonio. My page is Unapologetically Black. ADOS. Ask that you like and subscribe to the video and share this video as much as possible. Your children has a bullseye on their back. Black man, do you intend to defend your children? They are weaponizing the 13th Amendment to re-enslave your children through incarceration.
So people always ask me, well, Doc, why are you always saying and stressing the importance of voting? Because I'm part of the system. I see how the system works. You see that right there? See this place right here? That's where I, as the public defender or the defense attorney, this is where I sit. This is where your client or my client, or in my case, as a juvenile public defender, this is where your little badass little kid might be sitting, and this is where you, as the parent or the delinquent parent or the delinquent child or the uninvolved parent, or maybe the kid just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, this is where they're going to be sitting.
Bureau Chief Michael Dean have any intention on proceeding with the prosecution of these children. I'm extremely proud of Mr. Dean and his actions on Thursday, because in no uncertain terms, he said that the juvenile detention center was not a place for a 6-year-old child. There is protocol and a criminal justice process that did not allow my office to intervene and dismiss the charges before today.
Prosecutor, right here, this is where they sit.
Monique Worrell's administration of criminal justice in the Ninth Circuit has been clearly and fundamentally derelict so as to constitute both neglect of duty and incompetence. The policies or practices listed in our executive order suspending her that constitutes the grounds of suspension are as follows. Pattern and practice allowing juvenile offenders to avoid serious charges and incarceration altogether.
It's dereliction of duties because it doesn't align with the governor's politics. So I think it's very hypocritical for him to get up there and say that politics has no place in law and order, because this is all about politics.
There's always been an objective to deny you access to the democratic process, and that purpose was to deny you the ability to put people in that position that represent your interests. This DA is a clear indication of why they are reverting back to the systems of Jim Crow to prevent black people from holding these positions. Because this black woman has taken upon this position and has set upon herself to protect these black children, despite the consequences to her job.
Numbers are generated by our clerk's office, and it is only at that point that I, as a state attorney, am authorized to act. A case number pertaining to the 6-year-old girl was provided to my office this morning, and the charges were dropped this morning. At this point, we have not received a case number for the other child, but when we do and a case number is assigned, it too will be immediately dismissed. While I am extremely sensitive to the concerns of those who are identified as victims, and my office has reached out to speak to them, I refuse to knowingly play any role in the school-to-prison pipeline at any age.
From a prior video, I shown how they used to use juveniles in convict leasing. It's clear, they're clearly indicating to you that they want to mass incarcerate your children, and they're putting methods in place that enable them to do so without any resistance. What are you going to do, black people?
Now, if we don't vote on the right people, we won't have people who care about the system, who care about the children, who care about the parents, who recognize that, hey, these aren't criminals that we're dealing with, these are children. So this is some thought to put on your mind, that
these very young children are to be protected, nurtured, and disciplined in a manner that does not rely on the criminal justice system to do it. Systems are not designed to raise our children, people are. When we rely on the criminal justice system to raise children, let us not be shocked at the pain in the communities, the mental health crisis, and the inarticulable dysfunction that is so pervasive within the system and elsewhere.
And for black people, you have to understand that you've been handing your children over to these people to be educated, and you're surprised by the results or upset by the lack of education your children receive. But you have to understand they will never prepare your children to compete against their children. Your children sitting in those classroom seats is nothing more than the paycheck for majority of those teachers. Majority of those teachers teach history in a form or in a way that teaches our children to have low self-esteem. It teaches our children to have self-hate.
We elect the people who decide whether or not our kids are going to be in jail or not.
We continue to cover the rise in anti-democratic efforts by Republican officials in states across the country. We did so yesterday with that absolutely crazy story out of North Carolina where it appears Republicans or someone has launched a judicial commission investigation which may call for the removal of the sole black female justice on the state Supreme Court because she was caught speaking about the lack of diversity in the court system in an interview when she was asked about it.
What you see here is they are trying to deny diversity because you can't be present while they're working to re-enslave you. White people talk that affirmative action is reverse discrimination because they have codified themselves and their whiteness in these positions of power. They have continued to move the barrier back as far as requirements for you to make these positions while limiting your access to resources and education in an attempt to prevent you from ever being able to obtain these positions. And once one has obtained these positions and you have not agreed to be a sellout, to portray your own people, then they work to remove you regardless of you being placed there due to the democratic process.
That's the judge. That's where the judge sits. The judge is the one that's making the decisions. Guess what? We elect those people. We vote on those people. So guess what? If we have somebody who believes in making sure that we have the kind of juvenile justice system that we want, those are the kind of people that we want. Oh, hey. We elect the people who decide what kind of prosecutors we're going to have, and we also elect the mayor who decides what kind of officers that we're going to have. So that's some food for thought for you.
Well, tonight we got another one of those stories, and this one is out of Wisconsin, about Republicans stopping at nothing to just get rid of state judges they don't like. In liberal justice, Janet Protasewicz won by a whopping 11 points. The conservative got absolutely crushed, and he was not very happy about it.
I wish that in a circumstance like this, I would be able to concede to a worthy opponent. But I do not have a worthy opponent to which I can concede. My opponent is a serial liar. She's disregarded judicial ethics. She's demeaned the judiciary with her behavior.
To understand that Europeans are so uncivilized that they can sprout out statements like that, defaming characters without any factual basis behind it. They are not required to present the lies that he are claiming to have told by the candidate. But what Europeans have been able to do is weaponize their white supremacy, their white privilege, even against other whites who are considered black lovers or people who are considered democratic, because the democratic Party is associated with black people, even though most of the Democratic parties benefit white people. So this right here is an indication of the lawlessness of America and especially Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, its state legislature is one of the most gerrymandered states in the country. It's a 50-50 state, right? We know that. Right down the middle. Statewide elections have been won by Democrats, governor right now, the attorney general. But the state legislature, because of the maps they themselves have drawn, has supermajorities in both houses under Republican control because of those maps. Their entire power in the state rests on that, rests on those maps. Now, the existential threat to that power would be if the state Supreme Court in Wisconsin found those gerried maps to be unconstitutional under state law. Now, that is a real possibility with the new 4-3 majority and new lawsuits challenging the gerrymandered maps. And so before she's even heard a single case in the state Supreme Court, Republican lawmakers, the ones who gerrymander those maps, right, are now talking about impeaching Janet Protasewicz and removing her from office. And here's the thing, they might very well have the votes to do it.
You see Republicans repeatedly, openly subverting democracy. This person was duly elected into that position, and according to democracy, that would be the person who fulfills that position. But what the Republicans have decided to do is use corrupt policies to try to impeach this individual in order to keep themselves in power from their bogus process of gerrymandering.
Wisconsin's super gerrymandered. But what actually changed between the maps we had before 2011 and the maps we have now? Well, Senate District 8. Before, it was divided roughly 50-50 between the north suburbs of Milwaukee County and parts of Ozaukee, Washington, and Waukesha counties. After, oh, look at all that red, leaving just a quarter of the district in Milwaukee County instead of half. How about Assembly Districts 13 and 15? Before, compact districts that were fairly balanced in their partisan makeup. After, oh, they just stretched them out into Waukesha County. Once again, leaving just a little bit of blue. Let's do one more. Let's look at the state's most purple counties, Racine and Kenosha. Before, Senate Districts 21 and 22 were split by the natural county boundaries, and both were considered swing districts. After, the cities of Kenosha and Racine became one district, and then the rest of the two counties became one district, ensuring that neither of these seats would ever have a competitive race. So if 2011 was an extreme makeover, let's hope this time around we can fix those extremes. Like an episode of Botched.
See, when black people say they vote don't count, that's because you don't know what to ask for. This is because they took civics out of school. They took civics out of school so you wouldn't understand the political procedures they were doing to still continue to place you under Jim Crow. So when you hear black people say they vote don't count, this is why they say that, but that don't mean shut up and don't vote. That means make sure your vote be heard. There's no conspiracy theory when black people are saying that the white people are working collectively to hold black people back. This is clear evidence that white people are making collective efforts in order to deny blacks their American citizenship. You are seeing white people collectively working in order to deny blacks their access to democracy. So systematic racism from then to now still exists and has not changed the mentality of white people. They still are for the enslavement of black people. This is what black people have to realize.
We have new details tonight on where Donald Trump and his family and friends congregate inside the 20-acre compound and what draws the former president, his admirers, and others to the estate. From the ornate, multi-chandelier Donald J. Trump ballroom to gold-trimmed sitting and dining rooms. New focus tonight on the layout inside Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's 20-acre expanse on South Ocean Boulevard in Palm Beach. A new
I don't want to hear anything about your vote don't count when Donald Trump was willing to sacrifice living in Mar-a-Lago to Folsom County Jail in order to deprive you of your black vote. So I don't want to hear nothing about your black vote don't count. What I want to hear you talk about is how to organize in order to get the best impact for our black vote. That is what we need to be talking about. How to leverage our black vote in order to get the resources we need for our community and to defend our children against this oppressive system that is targeting them for incarceration.
Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and 17 other defendants this week are expected to be formally booked at the Fulton County Jail, also known as Rice Street, a hulking, crumbling structure that's garnered a notorious reputation. The sheriff of Fulton County insisting that, despite their high profiles, Trump and the others will be treated like every other defendant booked at this jail.
If you're indicted, then we're going to treat you as though you were indicted here locally. And so we will continue to do fingerprints, mugshots, etc.
What might it look like inside when Trump and the others formally surrender? Retired Fulton County Sheriff's Lieutenant Charles Rambo says normally people who are surrendering come through the facility's front door first. But regardless of which entrances Trump and the others arrive in,
they would be pat down, led to the booking office in the rear. From there, they probably will have to have ties and shoestrings and all those type of things taken. Then from there, the persons would be fingerprinted, given a booking photo.
Donald Trump